Okay, I think we're good.
Yes. I'd like to call to order the City Council Strategic Planning Session special meeting of Friday, February 23rd, 2024. Could we have a roll call, please?
Oh, is that me? I'm sorry.
I'm working on the numbers.
Where do I start?
Doesn't make any difference.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Singh. Here. Councilmember Watson. Here. Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Altman.
Here.
Mayor Burkhover.
Here. Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Meadows, second by Altman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion is approved unanimously. Any communication from the audience? Okay, seeing none. Business agenda 4.1. Consideration of how the independent investigation report released by City Council will be accessible to the public. Do we have a motion?
Yes. Motion would be to include the investigation report dated October 31st, 2023 is included in the City Council synopsis and official minutes of the council's action from Tuesday, February 20th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have some discussion. It occurred to me, do we want to create a city webpage that packages all the relevant documents? So starting with the anonymous complaint, City Council's statement when they authorize the investigation, City Council's statement when we decide not to release the investigation, and then the report we authorize.
Would that include Tony's document that was provided to employees?
Sure.
Is that a motion to amend?
Motion to amend.
I'll second that.
Say it again, please.
So create a city website that would package all the relevant documents.
You're talking about a page on the sentence book.
Correct.
Right.
And originally, when we voted Tuesday night, it's available by FOIA right now. Is that correct?
That's good.
Okay. So it is available.
So the items would be the original, the anonymous complaint, the statement made by City Council when they authorized the investigation, the statement made by City Council when they decided not to release the report, and then the report and whatever statements were the memo sent to staff outlining the parameters.
That was created by Tony.
That was created by Tony.
Clarification, if I may.
Go ahead.
Statement number 2, you're talking in reference to the November 2nd special city council meeting when they came out of closed session, issued that statement.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. So is this with the redactions that were inclusive in the motion from Tuesday night?
Yes. The version of the report that we voted on.
So all of these documents that you just laid out are already publicly available.
Correct.
It would be essentially organizing them
Correct. For the benefit
under one
of
page instead of searching through various council agendas and meeting minutes to find the related documents.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes, I have
Go
comments. So I would never support a racially motivated action. And I never thought the full letter should have been examined. And I never thought it should be released as its evidence to civil rights complaints. We gave our word that the names would be kept confidential. And in further thinking, your work name is also your title. And I think titles should be redacted as well. This is a small organization where single people have single titles. And so not redacting their title is not redacting their name, in my opinion.
Any further discussion?
Any thoughts?
I have nothing.
All right, and so I have more to say.
Sure. Go ahead.
So I thought about adding a background as we do in a lot of the information that we receive. And so if we added a background to this webpage that you're talking about, I would suggest stating things like this current council of white majority utilized a council right to release an investigation centering around Black people, and the letter nor investigation was done by the city of East Lansing. You can pay 30 grand, but that does not mean you're going to get 30 grand in quality. The hope was that this independent investigation was going to be objective, but it's subjective, and at its worst, this investigation is one-sided, dragging people of color and driven by white fear. And from the letter that was submitted, the anonymous letter to this document, it would be nice for council to say, we recognize the gaps. And while the Black people doing work was the primary problem in this organization, that we as council are re-examining the meaning of anti-racist. Those are some backgrounds that I think should be added.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Was there a second to mine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asia, will you do the roll call, please?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
What am I voting yes to?
The amendment was to create a
Yeah,
separate page.
amended motion, separate page.
Does it include the background that I mentioned?
No.
Okay, all right, no.
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Mayor Burkover,
No. Okay, motion passes 3-2. Okay,
You have
Okay,
to go
so
back
I'd
to-
like to make a motion to add a background to the webpage.
Fine.
go ahead.
You have to go back to the main motion as amended and pass that.
That's right. I was just passing it.
Okay, well, now Dan wants to make a amendment.
Right.
I would like to make a motion to add further background to the webpage that includes that the current council for background of white majority utilized a council right to release an investigation centering around Black people, and the letter nor investigation was done by the city of East Lansing, so that people understand the city of East Lansing didn't do this work and we didn't write this letter. While in the taxpayers, we want them to know they paid 30 grand. So you can pay 30 grand, but that does not mean you're going to get 30 grand in quality. The hope was this independent investigation would be objective. But what it is subjective, and at its worst, a one-sided dragging driven by white fear. And from the letter to this document, we as city council recognize the gaps. And while the Black people doing work was the primary problem in this organization, we as council are re-examining the meaning of anti-racism.
Okay, is there a second on the motion?
And the motion that it would be that background you just read.
Would be, yes. Is
Okay.
there a second on the motion? Motion dies for lack of second. We're back to the main motion.
As amended.
Yes, no. Okay, roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Singh,
Yes.
Councilmember Watson,
No,
Councilmember Meadows,
Yes.
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Mayor Burkover,
No. Okay. Moving on to the strategic planning session, section 5.1. Let me just introduce some thoughts. So I'm going to turn this over to the city manager, but in reviewing all of the work that you all did and that the city manager did, it occurred to me that in my view, most of the stuff that people were talking about has been included. And so I'm wondering how the group wants to work from a process standpoint. Whether you want to take it all in one lump, whether you want to take it item by item or category by category. And I understand people may want to add things. I understand there's been some discussion about people adding items, like that they prefer to make sure that we have one in addition to these things. But I would just suggest, it seemed to me that a lot of work has been done and it's susceptible to being voted on as a package right now. So with amendments or whatever. So what's the sense of the group? Mark?
Well, I don't disagree with you, and I think a lot of the things that I see on the list that, we pitched last time and then were put into categories, some of the very important ones are already underway. We're having a wedge and price study that's already, I think we've got an RFP out on that. There's other things on there that are already proceeding. I think we should take a look at, if we're going for 10 in particular, the easy way to do that would be to have each of us pick a couple and put it on, and those are the strategic priorities for the council during this next 2-year period to accomplish. And I think really all of the things that are on the list are worthy. So, some of them are redundant in the sense that one of us might have said it one way and another one said it another way, but, I think that would be an easy way for us to proceed. And we can be kept updated during the year on the rest of these things that have come out of the departments as their priorities, and which of course the city manager is going to, have their thumbs up, thumbs down on. So I feel comfortable going in that direction.
I'm not sure what you just said.
Like I said, each of us pick 2, and then we'll put that
Well,
down as our 10.
Okay,
I did your dice. I like what you're saying.
okay, but fine, but haven't we already picked 2?
No, I don't think we have.
So there's like 40 items on the list.
Okay, and so you want to call it down? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Doing?
A lot of that list is already going forward anyway, because
And you would exclude those?
I would probably exclude, for instance, a wage and price study as one of our priorities,
Oh, I
because
see.
we're already proceeding.
Okay.
I mean, wage and benefits.
Carrie?
I'm open to that framework. I would say how I've been looking at this and what we laid out collectively and where I see city current operations at, like, there's still fundamental pieces that I think is priority number 1 to support our city manager and the foundation of a functioning local government at a high level. That is, to me, priority number 1. And that includes, and this is where I was lumping, operate the operational pieces, which I still think a wage study is worthy to be considered under operations. Fiscal responsibility, or however the fiscal bucket, is under operations in my mind, as well as the employment items. Like, to me, that is what, in my opinion, what we need to support to ensure the foundation is solid for successful city government and lays the foundation for everything else in our city. But
Well, before we go any further, just because this is going to bug me because I'm obsessed with proposal. On our vision statement, we just agreed to correct the typo that's apparently been in there for 25 years, which says we will strive to build a workforce. I'm pretty sure it probably means build.
That was never our objective.
Guilds are all different things, but can we just get that out of the way and agree on that one?
where is this in the vision?
The
It's in the
last
values.
paragraph.
Oh, down there. So what, you want to start on this document?
No, I just want to
Okay.
make sure that that's taken care of.
I did my homework
If
today,
I
so I'm
can
ready.
attribute nothing else to this process, I'd like to correct the spelling.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Bellman,
All right,
it's your
so
ballgame. Go ahead.
thank you. I just wanted to summarize, this started on January 16th, when city department heads shared their top 3 to 5 priorities for 2024 and 25. And then on January 20th, that Saturday, we spent 3 hours completing the department head presentations, reviewing the fourth quarter update on the 22-23 strategic priorities. We summarized the DDA strategic planning process. We reviewed the city's vision and value statements. And then we identified the city's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and then ultimately creating the list of individual strategic priorities for each of you. This afternoon, I want to look at that vision statement and make sure it still is the vision statement you believe represents the city of East Lansing. Then I wanted to review the value statement, other than the typo, is it also still represent the city of East Lansing? And then I want to get into identifying our top 10 strategic priorities, of which each of you can pick 2, and that'll be our 10 that we will focus on, and we will then bring it back with the action items that department heads have already proposed under those 10 for your formal approval at a future council meeting.
Sounds great.
Okay, so to interpret that, you want us to look at the vision statement first,
Yes,
and then the value statement.
right.
And then you want to move on to a list of items, and I think you're saying you'd like to call those down to 10?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, vision statement. Anybody want to change the vision statement?
Yes.
Okay,
I would be more comfortable with the existing statement as a mission statement, but not as the vision statement. What I would propose something along the lines for a vision statement to be support East Lansing and being the most equitable, safe, climate resilient, and flourishing multi-generational university community in the United States.
Do we have that flip chart? Can you write it for me?
I wrote it,
Oh,
done. Now you want me to write it somewhere?
yeah, we're gonna grab that flip chart up here if we can just, so everybody can see it, digest it a little bit. And then
Are you suggesting a separate mission, vision, and values? Like 3
Yes.
things now?
Vision is different than mission.
Yeah, we don't have a mission statement. So
is it?
Yes.
How is it different?
The mission supports. The vision's up here, the mission is every day I work towards to support. The values are what you bring to the table, and it's central.
that's where you lose a little.
You're right, maybe. Figure it out.
Mr. Bowman, when was this vision and values created?
That I don't know.
The 90s. And who created the vision and values?
It would have been probably created in probably 96, because that was the first time we held a strategic priority meeting. And I think we did it about the same time. I think prior to that time, there might have been something about City of the Arts or something like that that had been adopted by council. But I don't think, I think we were looking to be more inclusive of the university after that. And so we changed it.
So
But I would guess it's
council-
been there for a long time.
Council created it, not
Yes.
staff.
No,
Yeah, council.
No, yeah, Billy and I were there.
This was a process that was staff driven.
Yeah.
It was part of a mission, vision, values, a high performing organization. Strategic planning process that staff went through. So these were the mission, vision, value statements that staff developed together around 2003, 2004, because I wasn't in the organization in the 90s and I went through this process with Ted Staten.
Okay,
think
well,
it was
this
six,
this would have been the
because
second time.
I
yeah.
started at 6, and so it's
Yeah.
probably 6.
Yeah.
So it was revised then
Yeah.
later in 2000.
And the council adopted it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My thing is the stakeholders, which is the staff as well. And so I'm used to staff coming up with their vision and mission and values and sending it on to our commissioners for their approval and or support. Or, I mean, I could see council weighing in, but it's weird to be telling an organization what their vision and mission and our values are when, you know, these are 4-year terms that are 2-year terms and we haven't even begun, and there's people that have been here a really long time. So I think they should be a part of the process. I actually think they should lead the process.
Well, they were always part of the process.
So what are their current ideas then on the new vision and values?
If
they
we're
were
gonna
a part
change
of
it.
the- Yeah,
Oh, I don't have any idea. I didn't know we were gonna change.
So, yeah, if you go back that if they were created back in 2003, all the new employees hired have not had any say in them. We've just put them up on placards that are hanging in every room. So the process typically is start the discussion at this level. And, this will be a document that will be shared with everybody and then brought back to council if there's any suggested changes before you formally adopt it.
Meaning that we're leading it,
Yes,
but last time the staff led it.
I think staff led portions of it.
Mhm.
Priorities have always been set, correct me if I'm wrong, by the city council.
That would be correct.
I think to hanging this, I mean, whatever we do today, one approach involve telling it to staff, then comment.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is what I'm gonna do next, because they also have to create the action items that fall under your suggested priorities.
I think then if maybe a non-hierarchical approach, not saying this is what council wants, but they weigh in and then they see what we said, so that they're not seeing it as we're recreating the vision without their say, because, most people have been here a while.
We'll step a draft and say, what do you think? And get that feedback.
Well, I guess I have a different view. And so, since it sounds like historically the genesis of this, the staff, then I think it would make sense rather than us spending whatever time we're gonna spend today figuring out what we would want on this, that it would be something to send it just back to staff through the city manager, essentially saying, we want staff to look at the current thing and give us their feedback and let us know how they would change it, if at all. I don't think that militates against us doing these other things that we can talk about today. And so I understand that process in terms of the original genesis was staff driven and it's an institutional situation. I would be more in favor of the city manager directing it to staff in whatever process you think is appropriate, so that we get buy-in. We have unions, we have non-union employees, and I think it makes sense to have them weigh in on this before we start trying to say what the organizational object should be.
Well, it should be a collaboration, but we are the elected leaders of the community that should be thinking about, what we communicated to the community upon our election and what we want for this community as elected leaders. I mean, it should be a collaboration, absolutely. I'm not saying that. That's why, I think we started with a list of issues and the pillars that's currently on our website that was created by staff. So I don't think it's completely disjointed, but I think it's important to understand how the city manager is gonna take whatever this conversation ends up being today back. And it's an iterative process.
Well, it sounds simpler than that to me. I mean, I don't have any problem with what you're saying. I've been through the time when we created and when we revised. And I don't think that was at all a problem, providing staff with the opportunity to review and make recommendations with regard to things. And they may look at this and say, change these 3 words and, we're good with it, and that makes it easier on us as well. So I agree. Let's just have staff review or ask those members of staff who wish to, weigh in on this, to review the current statement and make recommendations as it changes. And then we review them. And you're right. I mean, ultimately, we have to make the decision. So
That's at the risk of losing your support for that proposition. Aren't there people in town that actually think you were present at the creation?
probably so.
No, okay, I just want.
We should
It's,
date-
I'm not really 77. I'm like 177.
What do you say? Kate?
Look good.
we should date when this revision is made or
Yes,
put
we
a
will.
date on it, so
Good
people, so that people
Thank
know,
you.
or anyone that wants to change it.
Well, can we live with that? Kicking this back to the city manager
Sure.
to get input from the staff?
And also, we've gone through processes, and I even went through it, that I was with the Human Rights Commission, where someone walked us through a facilitated dialogue on our values and vision and mission. And so I'm sure like that there might be staff out there that either have connections or know how to have that dialogue to center people so that they do know the difference of a vision and mission and mission and can, you know, think about it.
Okay, well, I think that's the city manager's job to figure out the best way to do
Just
that.
letting you know, because you
No,
guys were
no,
also
I'm-
suggesting that
Yeah,
people
no,
just
no,
give their input. Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
Thank you.
I also want the city manager to be aware of those resources and utilize them effectively.
Yeah.
Because that's one way of us evaluating the city manager. So that's my only point. So we just gave you, I think, we just gave you a job to do, Mr. Filmer.
I noted it.
So then we move on to your next item.
Yes, which is you selecting the top priorities.
I start. Doing two each, I want to reestablish the financial health review team with the purpose of examining and making recommendations to city council regarding the unfunded liability in the city's retirement system and in the city's OPEB system.
Okay,
At least,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you adding to this list that he already put together?
no, I've already had said that on the list.
Can you just tell us where it is on this list? That's all, please.
We have a numbered version.
Yeah, I don't remember.
On the screen behind me will be both your original version with the various tracking of changes. And the other one is the clean copy that you received in your packet so that everybody can follow.
Okay, well, let me bring that.
And so we're working off the clean copy right now.
Zage just sent that.
I appreciate the screen, so I just want to say that before.
Yeah.
The paper. I'm just poking at my colleagues.
Fiscal number 2.
Got it. Number, address unfunded pension obligations and health liabilities.
Yes,
Okay,
and that was through the financial health, which I had mentioned at the time.
okay, so you would add to that one through a financial health team?
For the recommendations, and we would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. There, I don't have the updated information, but I do know that at this point in time, based on our projections in 2017, we should have been approaching 70% funded liability, funding, I think, at about 60 at this point.
63.
63. So we're about 10 points underneath. That doesn't really get us to where we had thought we would be. And then at that same time, I think from the information we had in 2018 and 2019, we had about $42 million in unfunded healthcare liability. And I want them to take a look at that as well and give us advice with regard to it. So that's my number 1.
Okay,
My number 2 is establish a charter review committee to review the current charter provisions, make recommendations to council as to any changes deemed necessary.
Where's that one at?
Number 3 under operation. And what was the rest of your statement? I'm sorry.
Just to make recommendations to council as to any changes deemed necessary. I think we've already identified, one of the motivators actually for the last review that we did in this way was to eliminate sort of the male dominance of the charter. Everything was a he or him. And we added he, she at that time to make it gender neutral. And I think we've already had comments about the fact that we need to sort of go a little bit further with regard to our preferences within the charter as well. And that's just one thing that could be recommended from that.
okay. Somebody else want to go next on there too?
I'll go.
Okay,
So under environment, there's currently 4. And I'm going to propose a hybrid for those four. short and
No
simple.
reach for three. No.
So what?
Said no reach for three when you only get two. No.
Oh, well, there is a little bit of that, but you all can tell me. what you think. So I was going to suggest for environment, one of mine is for environment, just invest in decarbonization and adaptation to climate change.
So you're combining 1 and 2.
I'm
Under
providing
environment.
1 and 2, and I'm taking out the actionable items. Right, so then they can come back to us and say, these are the things that we can do. And things that we
Can you say it again, please?
Yeah. Invest in decarbonization and adaptation to climate change.
And you're taking the rest of that.
And then I think that covers the rest of the 4. Not all those 4 were mine, but I think I'm just pointing out that I think that achieves some breadth across the various. And then my second one is in there, but I wanted to tighten it up a little bit. It's infrastructure number 3, which is basically running utilities, but I was going to suggest that we word that as follows: develop a policy or pilot project for relocating above ground utilities.
Did you
Where is
say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's infrastructure number 3.
Was that an or an and?
It was an or. Actually, it's an or, because I think there's a couple of ways you could go with this. One is to actually.
Yeah,
develop a
I
policy.
just want to fix this. So it's develop a policy for long-term or short-term pilot project?
No, it's just
I've lost it there. I'm sorry.
Develop a policy.
develop a
pilot
policy or pilot project
Or pilot project. Okay.
for relocating above ground utilities. And what I want to capture here is I want to give Scott the freedom to do what he
Mhm.
thinks he needs to do, and he's already sort of going down the pilot project route a little bit, but that may have to change depending on the exercise.
Okay. What's the next?
I wanted to float if anybody has suggestions more than anything for those. I'm gonna be tweaking everything.
Where's your first one at again?
The First one,
Environment.
Combining 1 and 2 on environment.
and sort of swallowing 3 and 4.
Yeah. So,
These are all sort of bumped.
Okay. What's going to, Dan,
I'm not ready.
Carrie?
Well, again, I was thinking about this a little bit differently, but I mean, for me, on the employment and operational lists that you have, like the 2 buckets, I loop in as well for fiscal management within the city structure, like shoring up systems, hiring. Like, to me, this is, again, a general top line where the city manager would need to prioritize each of those lists for us to ensure that we are funding and supporting. You could also use the word modernizing how some of the systems work here. From HR to reimbursements, payroll, collection of income tax, like, you know. So yeah, I'm lumping a whole lot together.
Well, go ahead.
What section?
So operational, fiscal, and employment.
So let me just ask you, so are you more or less, I'm not trying to put words in, more or less, excuse me, talking about number 4 under operational and just making it more of an umbrella thing,
Yes,
modernizing and standardizing the system,
sure.
and you would then be identifying additional things, or is that generic enough to meet your satisfaction?
I think part of that, though, is also ensuring that we have hired at full capacity, positions are filled. I'm connecting this back to what I talked along on the campaign trail as well. Like, this is, to me, job number 1, to ensure that we can provide what we need to do as a city. So,
Figure out how to get that into one.
I mean, again, I'm kind of throwing this back only because I've had similar conversations directly with our city manager in terms of what that means. That's a lot. And that's why it connects to me directly to the budget conversation. And again, Scott can't bury all the power lines unless he's fully staffed. I'm making this up. And he's not occupied shoving paper around trying to get grant dollars. I need to make sure our manager and the team has what it needs to operate successfully.
So how about modernizing and standardizing
What the organization-
operational and employment systems, including but not limited to full employment?
This also,
Well, if I may, I thought that was her number one. And then if you go to employment, go back to that being number two on a very broad scale, making sure that we're hiring and retaining employees.
yes. And I think, not to point at our DEI director, but some of the equitable hiring practices too, I know that is in discussion. That is how we do business. It's gotta be collective and holistic. But I lump in employment to operations. So that to me is one, because my number two is the elections.
What about something like efficient, effective, and modern city operations?
Right, that works, thanks. That's what I'm saying.
Or put words in your mouth, but
It's awesome. It's a team sport. I'm okay.
Give me that again.
hard to remember.
Efficient, effective, and something operational.
Modern,
Thank you.
thank you.
It's back to, I want East Lansing setting best practices,
Yeah.
not wondering where they can find the file from 1994.
So
Right.
So that's number one.
Number
Yes.
two is your elections thing, which is already on here verbatim, isn't it?
I think so.
Can you remember where
Smooth,
it is?
safe, secure access to voting, voter registration, and voter
Number three under
information.
democracy.
Yeah,
Okay, that's okay with you?
that's fine.
Okay, that's your second one. Okay, Dana, you ready with anything? Let me say this first.
Sure,
I'm gonna gift my two to the group.
I'll take one then.
Fine, that's why I said what I said. Because candidly, I can live with everything on this list.
Yeah.
And you counted them up, I guess you got up to 40. All 40 of them are fine with me. As long as we correct any typographical errors, and I didn't see any of these. So I'm really, at the mercy of the group here. So I have two to give. So if you're ready, go ahead.
Sure, I appreciate your environmental ads, by the way, and I appreciate what everybody adds. It's helping me to, pick different things and understand where this is going. So if I were to choose the improve audio and visual board and commissions, isn't that already happening?
See, we accomplished one.
That we've accomplished one, and is that arrow there to tell me that? Or that arrow is just saying that it moved? So
It's
this is-
just moved to a different section.
It's just moved, and so I see it under communication, and do I need to look at the clean copy, or where
Yeah,
is it?
so
Yeah.
that it'll be on the clean copy.
Is that expand resources and personnel and communications? Is that where that ended up? Because I'm looking at the clean copy and communication. I don't exactly see that.
It's under,
Maybe
it's
it's under
under
one.
operational.
It's
number
under-
five.
Oh,
Number
okay.
5 under operational is improve audio and visual capabilities of all public meetings.
But
Okay,
you guys are saying that's already
we already had it there.
in effect?
Well, you've approved the microphone system and for all the meetings. And then you upgraded at Hannah the
Yeah, there was some.
capacity of both the banquet room and the executive conference.
I think Kathy indicated the other night that it's the whole library, the the second floor room first. And then the,
Yeah, that's the executive conference room, and then
Okay.
it'll be the banquet room that will have built-in ability to broadcast.
Well, I don't want to add something that we don't have to add, but it seems to me, from what you're saying right now, it's sort of an imperfect science. So would it be appropriate to say, continue to improve audio and visual capabilities to all public? I don't want to create an initiative, one that doesn't have to be there, but if you guys are already convinced it's being effectuated, then okay.
I hear that it's there, but my question is, are we going to full access to all public meetings without needing to be in attendance?
Yeah, no, we haven't gotten to that point. That's gonna be a policy issue for this body. So that still has yet to be
But
worked on.
That's also limited by state law, right?
Well, residents could attend virtually as well, I
Right.
believe. The point
That's what I'm
was,
saying.
yes, not active numbers. But
Yeah,
it's still, even with the systems we're installing, will be a labor intensive process.
So what if we made it perfect audio and visual capabilities in all public meetings?
Expand.
should we say so that the public can access all meetings
If that's the goal.
without
Yeah.
attendance?
Yeah, so that's really enhancing accessibility, right?
I was thinking that.
Okay,
public accessibility.
What about that communication number one? Does that actually, I mean, if you change a couple of words there. So to promote and improve community engagement through an expanded social media presence. We kind of have a feeling for social media, but if it were through access, improved access to, or something like that.
Yeah, we could start doing our meetings on FaceTime Live.
That's right.
well, it still doesn't, my specific goal is all meetings are accessible without attendance, like during the epidemic, where you could tune into any meeting as long as you have a Zoom link and you could listen or maybe make public comments. So that's my goal, that we go back to those times which other people have made their meetings accessible, all meetings accessible virtually.
When you say all, do you include board and commission? Or-
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah, that's no. That's also partly a technological issue, right? Because the rooms have to be set up.
Even when you set it up, there's still someone that has to manage who calls in and
Yeah.
how you then unmute them and all of that stuff. So that's, we've been researching that aspect and the cost associated with it, which I don't have, but it could be a goal and we can bring it whether we are successful in achieving it. That's ultimately up to you.
Mhm. And I wonder, Eaton County Health Department, as I've said, Eaton County does it, and that staff member just, sets the camera right there, hits the Zoom link, and you can listen live or you can watch it, and so it's solved. So,
Also,
yeah. they
Right,
kept
but-
I mean,
it in the
it's
owl.
this thing right here.
Yeah, so I just,
But it's if you're allowing the public to then ask questions under public comment, you need somebody to unmute.
The chair, well, everyone's got different technology skills, I guess. I shouldn't make the assumption that a chair can do that, but
But it's
I guess when
definitely-
you run so many meetings online, like, you're very used to.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have staff there.
So you're gonna
Yeah,
have to-
there is
Yeah.
staff there.
Look,
that's true,
guys, we're not
Yes,
doing the city
we're
manager's
employees.
job.
too. Yeah,
If the goal,
That's right.
if the goal is
Thank you.
the
Yeah,
goal
to
is,
effectuate
yes,
open and accessible meetings for all citizens,
Thank you.
then, and we agree on that, then it seems to me that's the goal. Maybe we can't do that. Maybe it's gonna cost us $1 million to do that. We're gonna have to make a budget decision, but if that's the goal, and it kind of sounds like you're all buying into that, then that's the goal. And in addition, it's not being effectuated yet because we haven't solved those problems. So is it a goal?
thank you, absolutely.
So
what I
that's
want.
number 5 under operation, and then I expanded to include open and accessible meeting for the public. So not only do we need the equipment, but we need to make that happen.
And my next is under employment, number 5, develop and implement personnel policies to ensure equitable hiring and promotional standards and train all employees in unconscious bias with 100% participation in training.
I agree with that.
And just to go back, so I can keep my notes straight, so Dana's number one, which sort of got, you know,
We had a discussion.
well, I mean, I think we came up with some wording that makes sense, but where are you categorizing that in your,
It's under operational number 5. I just
Oh.
added.
okay, so you're gonna add it. so-
Yeah.
Okay. Or you wanna use one of mine, is that what you're saying?
I was sort of joking. I
Oh,
want to, I don't mind talking about and being fair or.
So I have a candidate for an additional one.
Don't be asking me, you're.
You
I'm
know,
not
I'm
sure.
gonna jump right on
I'm not
that. He's got this whole thing memorized.
Improve compliance with safety and quality of life ordinances.
Where is that at? Where?
I'm making this up.
What does improving compliance mean?
Well, other wording may be better. What I'm trying to avoid saying is increase enforcement or policing stuff, because there's other ways to get at some of these things, right, potentially. So if you're talking about speeding in neighborhoods,
Mhm.
there's traffic calming, right? If you're
Oh.
talking about dealing with people in crisis and their social work approach, right? There's various, I'm worried about loud cars, which trigger people. I'm worried about speeding in the neighborhoods. I'm worrying about people blowing through stop signs.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, which we hear a lot about. So I'm trying to find a way to group that stuff at a goal level.
Rephrase that.
Yes. Improve compliance with safety and quality of life ordinances. Maybe a better way to do that.
Now, again, because this public safety, okay. There's holistic approaches, right? I mean, my biggest fear is my kid getting run over, right? To your point on stop signs and speeding, but this kind of gets back to the staff coming up with, we see these problems. This is our proposed solution and the resources we need to do it. But I think that's probably, to me, again, I'm broad stroking public safety as that to me is a core service of our government, of local government and our community. And ensuring that, again, we have a robust set of considerations in doing so.
So what I'm trying to capture is sort of what's happened in the past few years with changes in behavior that started after the pandemic, right? In driving behavior, for example, which is pretty stark and pretty noticeable. And that's what I'm trying to focus on. I
What
agree
does
that,
that mean? That people are texting more when they drive post pandemic?
no, they're blowing through stop signs, they're
Or-
speeding, and the loud cars seem to come up right around the same time.
Well, there was I want to say 4 or 5 car accident on Abbott Road yesterday. With one car hitting the brakes and then boom, 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 right up by our house. And another police and fire were out there for quite a while. I think that's distracted driving. I think that's what happened there, but be interesting to find out what the source really was, but it was a pretty serious accident. I think
Right.
one of those cars was like accordion. So.
And now that you mentioned distracted driving, there's new state law, right? So it's not ordinances, it's code, because we need a blitz. Maybe what we need is a blitz to try to enforce distracted driving.
I will say when that law went into effect, I got pulled over for having my phone in my hand. So I do think it happens. Meaning. Yeah. Oh. Other thoughts on Mr. Altman's proposal?
Improve compliance with safety and quality of life.
You said ordinance.
I had ordinances,
Regulations.
regulations.
And traffic calming is a part of that, like that matches what you're saying, the traffic calm. Like I hear how a noise ordinance does. And okay, and I like how it's not that full mention of public safety.
Yeah, because there's other techniques.
There's other techniques.
Is that like, so when you say public safety, that seems limiting to
Yeah,
these
right.
other,
Yeah, because if you include public safety to me, then public safety thinks it's their thing to solve, and then they solve it in their public safety way instead of talking to maybe transportation or talking to the planning commission about
Public
signage
Works.
and, yeah, Public Works.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Are we live right
No, we're being
Oh.
recorded. We're gonna post after.
So we could, we did that on Stoddard. Even though there's, the speed undulations, but it did slow down traffic. I mean, it made it safer through the neighborhood.
They
We
did
put
what
little
else?
islands in.
The islands.
but
Well, the road
further
diet
up,
will
it's
also-
undulations.
Yes, yeah.
So-
And we just approved a bunch of money for studying,
Non-motorized transport.
and traffic calming.
Yes,
Right, we have
within
that.
neighborhoods.
Within the-
That was at 36,000 just
Right, right.
on
exactly.
Tuesday.
So I would maybe change ordinances to policies, so improve compliance with safety and quality of life policies.
I said regulation because it would pull in state law.
Just,
So it's just beyond what we passed, but
I just want to mention and not to be fully have my stuff captioned fully on Zoom, but I just want to mention that some of the traffic conversations are very difficult for some of our members because somebody has lost someone because of speeding, because of they lost their child. And so just remembering to be sensitive to that in our conversation and also.
thank you.
But going back to what you're saying, I appreciate your points and definitely motorcycles and noises and
Yeah.
speeding.
Okay, so
So yeah,
that's
great.
one of George's.
So do you add in there a more, improved compliance through a holistic approach?
I think that's up to you.
Well, I mean, that way it's kind of implies not just enforcement, but other services. Or do you think that's already implied?
I guess I viewed it as already implied.
Okay.
That's where I was trying to avoid words like policing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Let me just say I'm against this. The law is the law. You enforce the law. I understand. Leave it here.
Mhm.
We may have interpretations of how the law should be enforced, and we're going through that process. But I think it's illogical to have as a goal as the city council that we should make some special attempt, those are my words, to enforce the law or cure behaviors that are illegal. So I think that's a policing issue. Obviously, we have dialogue about policing, but that's a different thing. And so I just don't think it makes any sense to create, all due respect to you, I know, I understand what you're saying. They go all up and down Abbott Road all day, for which I got crucified at one of these council meetings. But the reality is, that's a policing issue. I don't think the city council needs to make that a separate intentional issue, number one. Number two, I suggest that if we were to do that in some document like this, that creates potential issues for prosecution of those crimes. Because then a defense attorney can say, on behalf of his or her client, that will see the police are under pressure directly from the city council to enforce these things rather than to simply follow the law. So I understand what you're getting at. I think it's admirable, but I don't think that should be part of the stuff.
Okay.
Well, it's your gift.
Yeah, it's your gift. So, yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm not taking, I'm just adding to the group discussion.
I'm gonna throw out a couple other ideas since we have some lingering. One is, where did it go? Now, again, I believe the communications piece, and I think Dina's point on accessibility to boards and commissions, but I think, ensuring that we're, again, supporting our communications director, whatever staffing needs, resources and access, because I think this has been what I see some of the challenges between what happens in City Hall and then what the neighborhoods and residents are aware, or the larger community. So I think that needs to be bolstered.
So which one?
You're number 5.
Yeah, in which category?
Communications. So it's top of,
There's only 4 in communication, that's what I'm thinking.
So are you saying number 3? Expand resources and personnel and for communication?
well, I lump that, see, this is what's my problem. I have a problem.
It's not a problem, it's good. Okay, you just need-
It's just how I think of, again, what I said on the operationals piece and ensuring that our staffing capacity is there. So that in theory should be wrapped up in that, in my first one. But I think we need to enhance our communications efforts and social media, marketing, whatever the paid, I don't know what that budget looks like. I probably should.
Can
but
I
don't know
suggest
about
something? So how about enhanced communications with constituents? Or continue to enhance effective communication with constituents. And if you want to
with a
add,
multifaceted.
well, yeah, I can,
Yeah.
social media thing's a different thing as far as I'm concerned, but if you want to add on what that listing of things might be, that's great, but it seems to me we've always had an issue in East Lansing with dialogue with neighborhoods. It's continuing, it's one of our jobs.
Yeah.
But dialogue with downtown, dialogue with, all these constituents. And so it seems to me to be an admirable goal to keep that out there. It's always going to be, pushing the stone up the hill, but yeah.
Would you?
I asked for clarity on your statement because I had enhanced communications with constituents, and then you went back and added a couple adjectives.
I don't know, man. Robert, I started rolling. So when
I can watch it from the video,
And
but
and I understand the court reporter beat up and read it back, so I have no idea what I said at a certain point in time. And Alden's gonna correct me anyway, so.
Well, I have a suggestion. So enhanced communications between the city and residents. Continue to enhance, because I think we've done a really good
Community
job.
Yeah, I agree.
It's got better. So continue to enhance communications between city government and residents.
What's another, do we say residents or non-residents? Can we say that? Because, everyone's.
The public.
And the public,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, why are we eliminating it? Because,
no,
we're sort of graded throughout the region and we should have more communication.
but it is between, the government is one of the parties. think
so I
that's
put
seven.
city
City.
Yeah. and the public, right?
That's a good one.
I think the word I was looking for was, I think you added effective communication.
Yeah, I'd be okay with you putting that in there too.
Seems you're done.
Of course it does, because you're a professor and I'm just a
I
lawyer.
thought professors were redundant. I thought that-
Okay, anything else we want to put in our top 10?
That's 10.
Is that?
Hold it,
Is it?
no, I think we're at 9, right?
That's
I
what
think
was
we're at
thinking.
9 too, at my.
Really?
Because we did not get Eric's.
Yeah, I think.
Suggestion.
I have
I thought
it.
he was, I thought he was gifted.
I did, but then I think it got confused. So,
Yeah. So we're at 9.
What about complete streets? Like complete streets, and then I know we did a resolution on the, age-friendly communities. But those are two things that I know, I think we've touched, I know complete streets is on here. I think age-friendly communities, and we've already passed a resolution to that end, but I'm just bringing that up that those are two things that linger and like, I'm uncertain in what we're actually doing.
So if I may, any of you can correct me, but I think our ordinance speaks to using that approach when we go to reconstruct.
Yeah, I think
For
it is in
complete
there.
streets or for,
For
okay,
complete streets, I believe,
I think it's in there.
it's in there,
I
okay,
believe so.
so it's ongoing. We're doing
Yeah.
it.
we're doing it. I love it. Okay, great.
What about the underemployment, the build a culture around work-life balance and staff well-being? Because maybe people will stay, you know, because they like some of the, you know, amenities that this place offers.
And I would consider that.
You say that again?
In the operational health
Oh, you would.
and employment, like
Yeah.
that's part of a healthy organization and retention.
What about this?
But I think it's
cultural
important.
and diversity. This was a few years ago, but you know, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on his name because he's famous, but one of the jazz professors over at MSU had come to me. Yeah,
Marcellus.
Yep. And he said, you know, it's great to have a jazz festival, but you know, Black folks don't like to come here. And I think this item is an important item to have as an objective, so that we can foster a thriving culture that celebrates diversity in the city, sponsor events and activities, and makes us a more welcoming community in that regard as well.
Were you reading from something? Because that sounds like.
It's cultural and diversity is on one under it, but
You know, it seems to me like maybe you got 11.
No, this would be 10.
Well, yeah, but Carrie had one that she was talking about the work life, or you did, the work-life balance.
Yeah, so you have to choose between.
I think it's like an operational.
Oh, yeah,
health,
she,
like,
yeah, she was saying that she's in a combo with.
I could make an argument that all of these are operational, but.
Yeah.
All right, so it's understood that that's part of one of the ones we
The
already.
work-life, the value, yeah.
Okay, so now we're to marks, okay? So, does that work for everybody? Okay, you got the magic 10 here?
We did, I'm just for the record. And I wouldn't even say that if we weren't being paid, but for the record. We don't have housing or anything on land use or any of those pieces that's a lot of breath of our day in, day out business. And so I just wanna,
no, I thought about that personally, but for one thing, I think our housing study is already outdated.
Is what?
Is already outdated, and I feel like I don't want to put it on as one of our objectives this year, but I think we need to talk about.
but there's a regional one that did a pullout of East Lansing that was done last year.
Yeah, you know, and I'd be a lot more comfortable with our own study. That's my only reaction.
But our housing study was recent. It's more
I thought it
recent
was
than,
like
19.
2017.
I think it's nice.
okay, when she came
It's the
for.
one I'm thinking of. I looked at that one, the seniors commission. I may be wrong,
But that's where I pulled the 1100 number from the regional one that has East Lansing pulled out that was done last year, over 5 years, 1100 units over 5
And
years.
you know, we're not prevented from, I mean, we have our 10, and we're not prevented from doing more
Right.
during the year.
Right.
And I think that should be something that we take a look at very deeply.
right, so conceptually, we were doing the 10 because these were the 10 we wanted to instruct the city manager to concentrate on. Is that why we were using the 10?
And tell the public that these are the things that we're working on.
So this is effectively job one for us in the next 12 months.
I'm
Job
sure.
one for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else is it that we want to do today?
That's it.
Can
Go
I
ahead,
have one
sir,
comment?
please.
So the strategic priorities that are organized in our recently, for example, in the document on the web that has Q4 updates for 2023, they're organized quite differently. And what I don't think we need to do is rewrite all that stuff to accommodate these 10. I think that that framework that's already there can accommodate these. And I think that spreadsheet that you've got there with the color coding is really useful. I found that really easy and productive to read through to see where
This
we were on various issues. That one.
Okay.
And so by my lights, I think we can just continue to build that spreadsheet off the progress here. And maybe it would be helpful to have an index that maps these 10 to those categories, like a document that says we've done this under this set of cells in there to, so that we can track progress on individual items, and so that the public can map those things to the things we talked about.
Right, I'll just say some about categories, when we did this the first time, we created categories so that each council member would have a category that they make a presentation on. And we've continued that category thing, for however many years it's been. But really, this is just about making East Lansing better.
Yeah.
I really don't think we need categories. I think this is making East Lansing better. This
This is for tracking progress.
okay. I don't have any problem with that.
I have a little bit of a different opinion,
Okay.
which is, I would love, my dream is every time we have a regular business meeting, our city manager pulls up a dashboard where for all the city departments, all the items, all the tactical pieces that are in that spreadsheet are all equating up to a goal or priority within every section. So like housing is the easiest example. Like, how are we working towards, building the housing units over the next 5 years? Or public safety, how are we doing, I'm making this up, assaults? What are we doing for, outside, I can't remember how you phrase the outside of traditional public safety strategies to bring down assaults, those tactics. And then every month we're seeing how we're doing. For elections, whether it's a turnout, whether we could actually get to not having any lines, aspirational, what is the goal? And this could be part of the staff
Every time you say
conversation.
that, she squirms in the chair.
I know, that's good, that's good. I'm typing up a memo asking for funding. Literally, that's what I'm doing right now. Listen, when you're uncomfortable, it drives action. It's okay. But I bring that up, which is part of the discussion to, the goals and the staff conversation that you're gonna have after this, that, that we can lead to progress. And that, to me, yes, it's all adding up to be improving the city and community of East Lansing, but we're actually seeing it from a data-driven way.
Would quarterly be enough for you?
Sure.
Well, let me suggest something else. Is there any reason why, since I think this is part of the city manager's job, the city manager just can't every week or two, when he gives the report to the council, he then includes something like that? Because to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to add that to a discussion item every meeting or something like that, okay?
That's
So
fine.
he could give us a report, and then maybe quarterly, we could do a summary thing where the council could discuss how are we doing on this, what should be done, this kind of thing.
This is
Well,
what
the other
done in the
thing-
past.
We
I
get
would
that.
just say, but it's been every 6 months. And so there was a presentation every 6 months. It doesn't mean you aren't getting information, because you get information from the city manager on a regular basis about how we're progressing on these things. But then the public, like a public presentation was every 6 months. So we update the public who's watching,
So my suggestion, Robert, is that you do some thinking about that, and in terms of the way you would think you should be city manager, and you get back to us with some sort of plan as to how you would keep track of our progress pursuant to Eversol Singh's suggestion and Meadows' suggestion and Almond's suggestion about, okay, how do we do this to the council? And in addition, how do we effectively communicate that at certain intervals to the public? Now I'd like to get back to the process here in this 10. So could you tell us now and remind us between the 10 and what Eric was talking about in terms of the color coding, how then are you proposing to integrate this process in to the budget process, which is starting literally yesterday? So can you kind of refresh our recollection?
Yeah,
on
so
that,
my,
please?
my next step is to take your top 10, share that with staff. Have their priorities populate under showing the accomplishment, some of which I think you guys captured in some of your action items there. on this list. And then that will be reflected in the budget document. and we'll call that. But ultimately, I want this format adopted by council as a formal, these are our priorities.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah. So the next step is for me to share these priorities with staff.
And the idea that when, after staff consultation on these priorities, setting aside the vision statement, you would bring that back to us after consultation with staff for us to formally adopt them
That is-
via motion, correct?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that you all understand.
And then we can bring back to us again.
Yes.
All right.
With the goal that the action items will dovetail into the budget.
Anything else you want to try to do today, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, and that's all I need.
Any other discussion we need today?
I was just gonna say, I think this is good.
Great.
We start to finish.
I'll just remind you, don't do that yet.
Okay,
Just to
I'm sorry.
remind you, there's another 4 or 5 hours of reasonable weather before we have snow freeze. Now, a motion to adjourn is in order.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Second, moved by Meadows, second by Alderman. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion. Yes, unanimously. Thanks, folks, for your involvement.
Wow, oh, seems a lot, really good.
Thank you.
I haven't been to the place yet. It does look good.
Which
I
bakery?
have been there-
Crumble?
I have been there several times, and I had to stop.
Yeah, I haven't been yet.
That's great.
A tip is call your order in ahead of time, although
Oh, yeah?
spring break will be okay, because college kids won't be in there, yeah.
Marie, you may need a cookie just to stay away.
Oh, sitting too
Well-
long like that.